I've spent years pretending what happened was just bad luck. But the truth is, I made one choice that destroyed lives, mine included. I thought I was exposing a thief. Instead, I opened a door I can't close. And now I can't decide if I stopped a monster or became one. My boss fired me for something I didn't do, so I showed him what I really found on his computer. It was a Tuesday morning when Brennan called me into his office. No good morning, no small talk, just that flat, unreadable look. I'd noticed he'd been acting off all week, avoiding eye contact, having whispered meetings with HR behind closed doors. "We're letting you go," he said, just like that. Effective immediately. I blinked at him. Wait, what? Why? He didn't even flinch. Sexual harassment complaint. Then he slid a folder across the desk like it was a done deal. Multiple female employees have come forward. My stomach dropped as I flipped it open. Pages and pages of supposed quotes, dates, times. Things I had never said, but disturbingly detailed. Like someone had been keeping a creepy little journal of my imaginary crimes. "This is insane," I said, my voice shaking. "I never said any of this." "The investigation is concluded," he replied coldly. "Security will escort you out." Just like that. 4 years at Meridian Tech. Spotless record, glowing reviews, not even a single write-up, and I was suddenly the office villain. Walking back to my desk to collect my things, something caught my eye. My monitor was slightly turned, not how I'd left it. The keyboard was pushed back at an odd angle. That's when it hit me. Last week Brennan had asked to borrow my login for a system update. Said it had to be done remotely. Security was distracted, arguing about which exit to take me through. I had maybe 2 minutes. I slipped into my chair, logged in, and pulled up my browser history. And there it was. Sites I'd never touched, dating apps, explicit content, even the social media pages of my female coworkers. Someone had been planting a digital trail to match the harassment claims. But they'd made a mistake. Some of the activity was supposedly during my vacation, when I'd been in the hospital, sitting beside my dad after his stroke. I quickly forwarded the entire history to my personal email just as security came back. 3 days later, I was sitting across from a lawyer. She flipped through my screenshots, nodded and said, "Your boss really wasn't subtle, was he? We can prove this is fake." "Why would he do this?" I asked. She slid a different folder toward me. "Because your company's under state audit. Someone's been funneling money through fake vendor accounts." My blood ran cold. I remembered Brennan pushing me to approve invoices last quarter for vendors I didn't recognize. "He needed a fall guy," she explained. "But firing you for theft would mean an investigation. Sexual harassment? That's harder to fight. People just assume it's true." When the lawsuit hit, the truth came out fast. Investigators found Brennan's actual browser history, gambling sites, desperate emails to loan sharks, and messages to a shell company called Phoenix Consulting. Over 2 years, he'd stolen $340,000. The women who were supposedly my accusers? They testified they'd never filed complaints. Brennan had forged their signatures using HR files. When the FBI finally arrested him, he caught my eye through the conference room glass. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "I read them anyway, you're dead." I thought it was just bluster, until my apartment was broken into. Nothing stolen, but my laptop had been tampered with. And then new files appeared, the kind that could destroy my life if anyone saw them. That night, a knock at my door. Midnight. I peered through the peephole and saw a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-30s, sleek dark coat, hair pulled back like she meant business. But her eyes kept darting to the stairwell. "Phoenix Consulting sent me," she said quietly. "We need to talk about your boss. He wasn't working alone." "I don't know what you're talking about," I called through the door. "Yes, you do. You forwarded their invoices to accounts payable. Brennan told you they were legit." My hand froze on the deadbolt. She was right. I had processed those payments, small amounts, regular enough to seem routine. "What do you want?" I asked. "To keep you alive." She leaned closer. "Brennan's in custody, but his partners aren't. They think you know more than you do. I cracked the door, chain still on. Up close, I saw the exhaustion etched into her face. She held up a badge. Detective Rodriguez, Financial Crimes Unit. I've been on Phoenix Consulting for 8 months. Your lawsuit just blew this case open. I let her in. She scanned my apartment like she was mapping every exit. How bad is this? I asked. That depends on what you know about the Kowalski brothers. The name hit like a gut punch. I'd heard Brennan mutter it once on the phone, right before slamming his door. I don't know anything about them, I said. They think you do. Phoenix Consulting was their front. They've been laundering money through tech companies for years. Small amounts, across dozens of businesses. She pulled up 2 photos. Sharp suits, cold eyes. Men you wouldn't want to owe money to. They don't like loose ends, she added. What kind of loose ends? The kind that testify in federal court. I sank onto the couch. But I just processed invoices. You processed their invoices. That makes you a witness. She explained the whole scheme, how the Kowalskis target mid-level employees with approval authority. How they compromise them through debt, blackmail, or greed. Brennan was the inside man, she said. Once they've got that, they send in small, harmless-looking invoices. IT consulting, web services, nothing flashy. I thought of every Phoenix Consulting payment I'd signed off on. They'd all looked so normal. The money gets washed through shell companies, then pumped into real businesses, restaurants, real estate, construction. Classic laundering. We've found 47 companies so far. Why frame me with harassment? I asked. Because if they fired you for cause, HR would review your approvals. They'd find the fake vendors. But with harassment, you're discredited, disgraced, and out the door. No questions asked. My chest tightened. And the break-in? They were planting evidence. If you ever tried to speak up, they could prove you were guilty. I swallowed hard. What kind of evidence? She hesitated. Enough to make the harassment charges stick forever. I felt sick. They were framing me twice. It's worse, she said quietly. We believe they were planning to make it look like suicide. Guilt over the charges. Career in ruins. People would buy that story. I stood at the window, scanning every shadow. So what now? I testify. You help us take them down, she said. Or, you wait for them to take you out. She left me with her card and the number for the FBI's witness protection coordinator. And she left me with a choice. Except, it didn't feel like a choice at all. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of my fridge and the occasional car passing outside. For days ago, I'd been a regular IT guy with a steady paycheck and the same boring routine every week. Now, I was caught in a federal investigation, with professional killers somewhere out there deciding when I was going to die. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I called in sick to my temp job and met Rodriguez downtown, in one of those cramped coffee shops where the smell of burnt espresso lingers in the air. She wasn't alone this time. With her was a guy named Martinez, built like he could carry a sofa up 3 flights of stairs without breaking a sweat. Rodriguez didn't waste time. We need you to wear a wire. I blinked at her. A wire? Why? She folded her hands on the table. Brennan's lawyer is fishing for a deal. He wants to trade information for a lighter sentence. That's good news, right? Only if we can prove what he's saying is real. That's where you come in. We need him to talk about the Kowalskis. Martinez slid something toward me. At first glance, it looked like a regular pen. But when he clicked the top, a tiny red light glowed. Top of the line, he said. 8-hour battery life. I stared at it. Such a small object, but it felt heavy in my hand, like I was holding a loaded gun. You want me to go see Brennan? In jail. He's not in jail, Rodriguez said. Made bail yesterday. He's under house arrest, ankle monitor, but he can still have visitors. He's not going to talk to me, I said. I'm the reason he got busted in the first place. Exactly, she countered. He's angry, scared, desperate. That's when people slip up. A couple of hours later, I was standing in front of Brennan's suburban home, A picture-perfect two-story colonial with a manicured lawn and cheerful flower beds. The kind of house you'd expect in a real estate brochure, not the backdrop for a man laundering hundreds of thousands of dollars. Through the front window, I caught a glimpse of the ankle monitor blinking at his leg. When he opened the door, I almost didn't recognize him. Sweatpants, an old t-shirt, hair sticking up like he'd been dragged out of bed. He squinted at me. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I want to talk." "About what?" "How you destroyed my life." "About the truth." He stared at me for a beat before stepping aside. Inside, the place was chaos. Half-packed boxes, pizza cartons, empty beer bottles. His marriage had clearly imploded. He confirmed it without me even asking. "Rachel's gone," he muttered. "Took the kids to her mom's. Can't blame her." "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "Are you?" He gave me a bitter smile. "Or are you just here to gloat?" "Neither. I want to know why." He dropped into a recliner like the weight of everything had finally crushed him. "It started small. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. Victor said it was temporary, just until I could pay off my debts." "Victor Kowalski," I said. That name snapped his head up. "How do you know about Victor?" "The FBI," I replied. His eyes widened. "They know about him?" "They know about Phoenix Consulting." Brennan laughed without humor. "Phoenix was nothing. Victor's got operations in a dozen states. Dozens of shell companies." "How'd you meet him?" "Online poker," he said, rubbing his temples. "I was 50 grand in the hole. Couldn't pay it back. Victor reached out with an offer. In exchange for? Access. He needed someone inside a tech company with invoice approval authority. So you brought me in. I needed someone who'd process payments without asking too many questions. But when the audit came up, Victor wanted a distraction. The harassment charges. Yeah, get you out quietly, no paper trail. I thought maybe they'd just pay you to keep quiet." My stomach tightened. "And?" His expression darkened. "Victor called me after your lawsuit hit. He was furious. Said you were a liability that needed to be eliminated." "How?" I asked. "I didn't ask. I didn't want to know." He went on to tell me about others who'd crossed Victor, an accountant in Phoenix, a bookkeeper in Detroit, an office manager in Atlanta. All dead within months of poking around the wrong files. And every single death wrapped up neat with a cover story. "These aren't just financial criminals," I said. "They're killers." Brennan nodded. "Victor's already marked both of us. The question is when." I thought about Rodriguez's earlier offer. A new identity, a new life. It was starting to sound like the only way I'd ever see my next birthday. "What if we stop them?" I asked. He shook his head. "You don't get it. Victor has judges, cops, politicians in his pocket. He's untouchable. The FBI doesn't think so. They don't know him like I do." But something in his voice wavered. For the first time, I saw doubt creep in. "What would it take?" he asked quietly. "Testimony. Records. Proof of the murders. Proof of the money. You'd have to find where he keeps it." "Could you tell me?" Brennan gave me a look that was half disbelief, half pity. "You're not seriously thinking about going after him yourself." "I'm thinking about staying alive," I said. He leaned back, defeated. "Then run. Change your name. Move to the other side of the world. Because me, I'm already dead. I just haven't stopped breathing yet." When I left his house, my pocket felt heavier. That tiny recording device now carried a name that changed everything. Victor Kowalski wasn't just a money man. He was a murderer. Rodriguez listened to the recording later, her jaw tightening with every word. "This isn't just about fraud anymore," she said. "Can you protect me?" "We'll try. But Brennan's right, Victor has resources. He's survived a long time without getting caught. So what now?" "We start with the money. Build the case. Use that to get warrants for the rest." "How long will that take?" "Months. Maybe years." "I might not have months." She nodded grimly. "Then we move fast." The next week felt like I was living in limbo. Not freedom. Not prison. Something in between. The FBI moved me into a safe house. A bland, Beige apartment in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. No personal touches, no familiar smells. No signs of life except the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak in the walls. I couldn't see friends. Couldn't go anywhere I used to. I was a ghost in my own life. Martinez became my only regular visitor. He'd stop by every day with groceries and guarded updates. "We're building a timeline," he told me one afternoon. "Every suspicious death, every shell company, every fake invoice. It's huge. Any luck finding Victor?" "Not yet. He's slippery, multiple homes, everything in someone else's name. But we'll get him." Most days I tried to keep my mind busy, reading, half-watching TV, anything to avoid picturing the Kowalskis' faces. It was like house arrest, except the guards were outside, trying to keep the monsters from coming in. Then Tuesday morning, Martinez came in looking different. "We've got a problem," he said. "What kind of problem?" "Brennan's dead." It was like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. "How?" "Officially? Suicide. Hung himself in the basement." "You don't buy that." "Not for a second. His ankle monitor shows he never left the house. No signs of forced entry, no struggle. But the timing." He shook his head. "It's bad. If Victor could get to Brennan under house arrest, under federal monitoring, then my so-called safe house wasn't safe at all." Martinez hesitated, then pulled out his phone. "There's more. Before he died, Brennan called our tip line. Left this." Brennan's voice came through, thin and shaking. "This is Brennan Hutchkins. If anything happens to me, check storage unit 247 at Secure Space on Maple Street. Keys taped under my kitchen sink. Tell Rodriguez she was right about everything." "You checked it?" I asked. "This morning. Full of records. Financials, emails, murder logs." I froze. Murder logs. Martinez's jaw was tight. He documented everything. Henderson in Phoenix. Thompson in Detroit. Walsh in Atlanta. 6 others. All killed within months of poking into the wrong accounts. Rodriguez confirmed it later. It was enough to charge Victor with murder, racketeering, laundering, if they could find him. Pavel was still active. They were watching him, hoping he'd slip. That night, alone in the apartment, every sound made my pulse jump. Brennan's death wasn't just a warning. It was proof. If they wanted me gone, they could make it happen. The next morning, I was making coffee when I heard a key in the lock. My first thought was Martinez, but he wasn't due until noon. I grabbed the kitchen knife. The door swung open. Pavel Kowalski walked in like he'd been here before. He was younger than Victor, but those same pale, pitiless eyes. The kind of eyes that looked through you, not at you. "Hello, Thomas," he said, calm as anything. "We need to talk." I held the knife, but we both knew it was a prop. If Pavel had come here to kill me, I'd already be on the floor. "How did you find me?" He smirked. "Your friend Rodriguez isn't as careful as she thinks." He glanced around. Federal safe house. Nice upgrade from the motel where we found Henderson. "What do you want?" "To give you a choice." He sat down on the couch like it was his. "My brother's unhappy. Your lawsuit, the feds sniffing around, Brennan's unfortunate death. It's bad for business." "Good." He tilted his head. "Because now 12 families are out of work. Dozens of employees without paychecks. All because you couldn't leave things alone. People died, Pavel." He shrugged. "People die every day. Most of them don't matter. They mattered to me. That's your problem. You think you're a hero." He moved to the window. "Here's your choice. You disappear. New name, new life. We'll even give you 50 grand to start over. In exchange for what? You never testify. You never speak to the FBI again. You erase all of this from your life. And if I say no?" His voice was ice. "Then you join Brennan." I thought about Rodriguez, Martinez, Henderson, the others who never saw it coming. "I can't do that." He just nodded like he'd already penciled in the outcome. "Then you'll die like them. But first, we'll make sure everyone you love understands why crossing us is a mistake." "I don't have anyone left," I said. He smiled faintly. "Jennifer, in Seattle. Kyle, your nephew, college freshman. Your mother in Tampa. My stomach dropped. I'd never mentioned them to anyone in this case. They're all being watched, he said. One phone call from me, and they have accidents. The FBI can't save them all. What do you want? Call Rodriguez. Tell her you're out. No more testimony. No more witness protection. She'll know something's wrong. Then make her believe nothing is. He handed me my phone. Now, I thought about Jennifer, about Kyle, about my mom. I dialed with shaking hands. Thomas. Rodriguez's voice was instantly alert. What's wrong? I'm done, I said flatly. The case, the testimony, I can't. Thomas, Victor will. Maybe. But my family will be safe. There was a long pause. Someone's with you, aren't they? Pavel's eyes locked on mine. I nodded once. I just can't do it anymore. Where do you want to meet? I don't. I'm leaving tonight. Don't try to find me. I hung up. Pavel smiled. Good. Now let's discuss where you'll be relocated. But as he talked, I noticed it. The glances at his phone, the twitch toward the window. He was expecting someone. Is Victor coming? I asked. My brother doesn't deal with details anymore. But he's nearby. Too nearby. Pavel's phone buzzed. His face tightened. Change of plans. We're leaving now. Where? Somewhere more private. Every instinct screamed that if I walked out that door, I wasn't coming back. I need to pack. You won't need anything. That's when I knew. Actually, I said slowly, I think I've changed my mind about testifying. Pavel's hand drifted inside his jacket, and I realized it was already too late. I lunged for the kitchen, not for the knife I dropped, but for the one thing that could actually save me. Rodriguez's emergency-only phone. One press of that panic button, and the FBI would be here in minutes. I didn't make it. Pavel slammed into me from behind, driving the air out of my lungs. We crashed into the counter. A lamp toppled, glass shattering across the floor. You stupid bastard, he hissed, yanking a gun from inside his jacket. You could have walked away from this. So could Henderson, and Thompson, and Walsh. His lip curled. They were business decisions. This is personal. That's when I heard it, boots pounding up the stairs. Fast. FBI. Open up. The door exploded inward. Agents flooded the apartment, weapons up. Pavel spun toward them, gun halfway raised. 2 shots from Martinez, center mass. Pavel dropped like a stone. Rodriguez was already at my side. Are you hurt? I shook my head, still catching my breath. How did you know? That phone call, she said. You mentioned your family. You've never once brought up family. Martinez knelt over Pavel. No pulse. Rodriguez crouched, fishing through his pockets. She pulled out a phone, scrolling quickly. Recent messages. Oh, this is interesting. Looks like Victor's been operating close by. How close? She turned the screen toward me. Room 237. Marriott downtown. 20 minutes later, we were tearing through traffic with a full FBI tactical team, my bulletproof vest digging into my ribs. Rodriguez glanced at me. This could be over in an hour. Victor's been our white whale for 2 years. Or it's a trap, I muttered. The Marriott was a gleaming 40-story tower in the middle of the financial district. Agents swarmed the building, clearing floors above and below. I sat in the command vehicle, headset on, heart pounding. Target acquired, came over the radio. Matches description. Seated at a desk, working on a laptop. Armed? Rodriguez asked. Unknown. Move in. There was shouting. The crack of a battering ram. More shouting. Then silence. Target secured. Victor Kowalski in custody. Rodriguez grinned. We got him. But my stomach turned. That was too easy. Why was he just waiting? Nowhere else to go? She offered. Or he wanted this. An hour later, I was behind one-way glass at FBI HQ, watching Rodriguez interrogate him. Victor wasn't what I'd imagined. Mid-50s, silver hair, tailored suit. He looked more like a finance CEO than the man behind 9 murders. Rodriguez laid it out. Murder charges, racketeering, laundering, intimidation. Told him Pavel was dead. Told him it was over. Victor just smiled. You think Pavel and I ran the show? He said softly. We were middle management. Rodriguez narrowed her eyes. Then who's above you? He leaned in, voice calm. The kind of people who can reach federal witnesses in safe houses. The kind who can make FBI detectives vanish. He turned his head, looked directly at the glass, directly at me. This, he said, is just the beginning. 2 days later, Rodriguez called me in. They found something in Victor's room. Financial records, payments to government officials, judges, prosecutors, police chiefs, bribes. Worse, systematic control. Years of it. And some of those names are tied to our case. The realization hit hard. You're saying there's a mole in the FBI. Or more than one. The case blew open. Federal judges arrested. A U.S. attorney indicted. 7 FBI agents suspended. Every day more names. It's like pulling a thread, Rodriguez said. Every arrest leads to 2 more. And Victor thought he was untouchable. He had reason to. Now we see why. But it wasn't over. Martinez came to me one morning. We're moving you again. Too many people know this address. The new safe house was a lonely farmhouse in rural Virginia. Nothing but fields, wind, and the occasional deer outside the window. I told myself isolation was safety. 3 weeks later, Rodriguez showed up, her expression carved from stone. Victor's dead. What? Inside federal prison. Supposed suicide. She shook her head. It wasn't suicide. If they can reach him there. My voice trailed off. We're taking precautions, she said. And those precautions meant moving me every few days. Burning through identities like disposable napkins. I was vanishing from my own life. Then, a month after Victor's death, Rodriguez dropped a bombshell. We want you to go public. I stared at her. You mean talk? On camera? Testify before Congress. Tell your story nationwide. That's suicide. Or survival. Right now, you're a secret. Easy to erase. But if the whole country knows your face and your story, they can't make you disappear quietly. It was a gamble either way. Die in the shadows or risk my life in the light. I swallowed. What would I have to do? Everything, she said. From the very beginning. How Brennan framed you. How you found the fake invoices. How the murders tied in, Rodriguez said. And then what? I asked. Then, she gave a small, tight smile. We see what happens. The congressional hearing was set for a Tuesday in October. For a week straight, I sat in conference rooms with FBI lawyers, rehearsing my testimony, playing out every possible question they might throw at me. The night before, I sat alone in a hotel room under heavy guard, staring at the ceiling. A year ago, I'd been a nameless IT guy in a cubicle. Now I was about to tell Congress and the world about a corruption ring that had taken lives, ruined careers, and rotted through the justice system like a cancer. I thought of Brennan hanging in his basement, Pavel bleeding out on the floor of my safe house, Victor suicided in federal prison, and Henderson, Thompson, Walsh, the others who never made it this far. Tomorrow I'd say their names. The hearing room was a sea of cameras and flashes. Reporters crammed into every inch of space. I sat at a long, polished table, hands trembling despite the beta blockers the FBI doctor had slipped me. Mr. Davidson, the chairman began, tell us how you first noticed irregularities at Meridian Technologies. And I did, for 4 hours straight. The fake invoices, the conversations I'd recorded. How the network operated like a shadow government inside the justice system itself. The senators pushed hard. Some skeptical, some furious. One leaned forward and said, in your opinion, how far does this go? Based on what I've seen, I said, voice steady, it reaches every major law enforcement body, FBI, DEA, federal courts. This isn't a few bad apples. This is rot in the roots. That's a serious accusation, he warned. It's a serious problem, I shot back. That night, my face was everywhere, news broadcasts, headlines, social media feeds. The scandal had a human face now. Rodriguez met me back at the hotel. How do you feel? Exposed. Good. Exposure is protection. But public didn't mean safe. 3 days later, someone tried to poison me at a restaurant. The FBI food tester caught it first. A week after that, a car came at me outside the courthouse. My security detail yanked me back just in time. 2 weeks later, a package bomb showed up at my hotel. Rodriguez stayed calm. They're getting desperate, she said. That's good news. Desperate people slip up. And she was right. Every attempt left a breadcrumb, DNA, fingerprints, surveillance. Piece by piece, we climbed the ladder. 6 months later, the numbers were staggering. 127 government officials arrested. 45 companies shut down. $340 million seized. 23 murders solved. And then, the big one, the man at the top, Senator Richard Blackwood, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, had been running the entire network for over a decade. He'd used his position to shield criminals, eliminate threats, and manipulate investigations. The evidence tied him directly to Victor's death in prison. I testified against him in court. He glared at me the entire time, lips pressed into a thin, white line. The jury convicted him on all counts, life without parole. As they led him away, he turned just enough for me to see his mouth form the words. This isn't over. But it was. The network was dismantled. The murders solved. The worst of them behind bars. I was free. That was 5 years ago. Now, I live under my real name in a small Colorado city. I work as a cybersecurity consultant, helping companies spot financial fraud before it grows into something monstrous. It's quiet. It's honest. And after what I've seen, honest work feels like a luxury. The threats never fully stopped. Blackwood's believers still send the occasional letter, but nothing's come close to touching me. The FBI still keeps an eye on it, just in case. Rodriguez retired and teaches criminal justice now. Martinez runs the financial crimes unit in Denver. We meet for coffee sometimes, like normal people with normal lives. Last month, Rodriguez sent me a newspaper clipping. Financial fraud network exposed by employee whistleblower. A woman in Phoenix had uncovered laundering for a cartel inside her company. She went to the FBI, faced the threats, testified, and won. Another ordinary person who refused to stay quiet. I keep that clipping on my desk. A reminder that justice doesn't happen on its own. Someone has to choose it, over and over, even when it's dangerous. My boss tried to fire me for something I didn't do. Instead, I found out what he had done. And in the process, I helped pull down an entire criminal empire. Cost me my old life, but gave me something far more valuable. Proof that one person can make a difference. Even if that person is just a mid-level IT guy who got suspicious about a couple of fake invoices.